this sight never fails to just give you a little shiver down your spine. It is magnificent. There was a wonderful documentary that was broadcast recently about the 200 years of the Royal Procession, and the thing that thrilled me almost the most was the fact that it's the same horse who's the lead horse of the King's carriage, Icon. Yes. What a wonderful name for a horse, and the fact that he's obviously so steady and sturdy and stable that he gets that job, and the King and Queen are looking wonderful as they go through the Golden Gates onto the racecourse.
I think it's always remarkable to see how these horses perform when it comes to the big ceremonial events, with all the crowds around them, with all of the noise, and yet there they are, slow and steady, guiding those carriages along the racecourse now. Here in Ascot, the King waving to the crowds, because remember, this carriage ride would actually have taken around 40 minutes it takes in total to get from Windsor Great Park here to the Ascot racecourse, here to the parade ring. So that those who are involved in this carriage procession, who get those prize seats, they have a real chance to have a good old catch-up here with the King and Queen. And they're inside the carriage with the King and Queen this year for this first day of Royal Ascot. You have Prince Faisal bin Salman Al Saud. He is himself a racehorse owner. I don't think there are any specific links with King Charles, but of course there are always tight ties between the Arab royal family and our royal family as well. He's a member of the Saudi royal family, but for him, of course, a very special way to arrive here at Royal Ascot. And also alongside him, you've got Lady Sarah Keswick. Now, she is one of the Queen's companions. The Queen's companions actually replaced the traditional ladies in waiting, but she's a really close friend of Camilla, really close friend. In fact, it was the first time that Charles and Camilla were seen out with each other was actually at her 50th birthday party, so all the way back in 1995. Moving on to the second carriage here.
Yeah, the second carriage, the Princess Royal, the Duke of Wellington, the Duchess of Wellington, and Mrs. Annabel Elliot.
So we've got to talk about Princess Anne, haven't we? My goodness, probably the member of the royal family who is most renowned now for her love of horses. And only last summer, don't forget, she had that accident with a horse. We weren't told exactly what happened, and actually Princess Anne didn't entirely know what happened, which is remarkable, but she's doing so well. The Duke and Duchess of Wellington, I think this is a really interesting nod to history, because back in 1825, it was actually the Duke of Wellington who, on horseback, led those four carriages. So I think they're ticking the box there.
I love that.
Yeah, with a bit of history there.
Yeah.
But also, Duke and Duchess of Wellington are really, really good friends of the King and Queen. Apparently only last week, the King and Queen attended their joint 150th birthday. He's 80,
wonderful.
She's 70. So you can tell, often these events, well, Ascot is about the King and Queen being able to spend time with their friends. I think that's what's really important. And also Annabel Elliot there, sitting alongside Princess Anne, is the Queen's sister.
Wonderful. It's great to see them enjoying the ride, and you know, that's what horse racing is about, that you have a brilliant day out with your friends.
Yeah, and I think it was described to me by somebody as a very private yet public event for the royal family, because yes, you have this moment where literally thousands of spectators come out to wave and watch as the royal family go past in the carriages. But then, like everybody else, they get a little bit of time away, don't they? They come into the parade ring, everyone gets to see them, and then they get to go into the royal box, where they get to have a bit of food, maybe a little drink, and also, of course, watch the horse racing, but surrounded by their friends. And that's why it was always so important for Queen Elizabeth II, is she felt surrounded by friends and family. This was somewhere where she could actually relax.
And this is the third carriage.
So in the third carriage, we have Peter Phillips, who of course is the son of Princess Anne, also his girlfriend, Harriet Spurling as well. And alongside them, you've got Anthony Horowitz, the author. So if you know your children's books, he's most famous for the Alex Rider series.
And I think he's written James Bond.
Yes, true, very true.
Well,
and his wife, I didn't know this about his wife, but his wife also, Jill Green, she's an executive producer, and she works quite closely alongside him. So you've got a working partnership there as well.
Yeah.
But he's going to. He's presenting the trophies later for the Coventry Stakes.
Right.
So yeah, he's got a big job on his hands later on.
Yeah, but he can take it. Anyone that took over the James Bond mantle definitely can take it. And in the fourth carriage...
Yeah, so I think this is, again, a reminder that this is kind of about inviting friends and having a day out with friends. So you have Henry Martin Jack and Lady Joanna Morton Jack. She's the daughter of the Earl of Halifax. I think the Earl of Halifax is here, but I think maybe he's decided that his daughter can have the maybe more bumpy ride in a carriage.
Very selfless though, isn't it? One of the outriders just getting a little bit spicy there, as you can see on the outside.
I mean, the heat can't help, I'm sure.
It's an unbelievable atmosphere here, and any of these horses are well within their rights just to get a little bit hot under the collar.
Well, just on the weekend at Trooping the Colour, it was the same, to see the horses in such close proximity to the crowds, and yet dealing with that in the most calm and collected way, and their riders, of course, and those driving those carriages. It's just the most incredible spectacle, and while we just sit and watch and take it all in and enjoy the pageantry and the tradition, you have to think about all of those who've worked behind the scenes to make sure that everything looks its best, and also runs to time as well, because you were talking about the first race getting underway. They need to make sure that they get here to the parade ring spot on time to make sure that they don't hold anything up. The pressure's certainly on. Yes,
clockwork, like clockwork, isn't it? And what I find extraordinary is that this just doesn't look any different to how it would have looked 200 years ago, 150. Some of these carriages are 150 years old.
And if you think you've had so many changes of monarch, you've had so many changes in technology. Look, you could see them driving along there in kind of state-of-the-art cars, kind of with the roofs down or whatever. No, they want to stick to the tradition, get those Ascot landaus out, and they are the most spectacular way for the public to see members of the royal family. And what I've really been taken aback by, certainly over the last year, the royal family have had a difficult time, obviously, with the cancer diagnosis for the king, and he is still having cancer treatment. So it's remarkable that he wants to be here, for example, for the whole week. But what I've seen is that there has been a real appreciation, I think, from the general public as to what they do.
The national anthem as they reach the 1 furlong marker. Maybe not quite as quick as the horses that we'll see in the Queen Anne Stakes in the first race, but what was lovely, Rhiannon, there is that many members of the assembled crowd were singing the anthem as well.
And I think it chimes with the point I was making. I think the difficulties that the royal family have faced in the last year has really emphasised to people what they mean to the country. How the king has wanted to continue to carry out his duties, has wanted to uphold traditions like this, despite the fact that he's still having cancer treatment. And certainly I've been speaking to the palace, and consistently they have said that it has been kind of a real joy for the king to know that he has had that support from members of the royal family. It's been really important for them.
Yeah, and of course huge support from racegoers here at Ascot as well. They'll make their way into the paddock, and no doubt be a huge cheer and a round of applause as that happens. And they're just going through the area where there are many people on the lawns. They've come out under the tunnel, and people enjoying their drinks and food before racing, and the pre-parade ring is just up there and towards their right, and in a moment they'll come under the tunnel and out into the paddock proper as well. And it's a tradition that's really been embraced by everyone, and it's wonderful to see this history being kept alive as well, because it's something that's really appreciated, and a bit of theatre, I think, as well, Rhiannon.
It is. Every year that I've been, I just think it's wonderful that, yes, people are here to see the racing. As we hear the lovely round of applause there, it's worth reflecting on the fact that this is probably the closest that some people will get to members of the royal family. If you think often engagements, visits, they're heavily controlled in terms of who's invited. Often members of the public are kind of kept away a little bit. I know the King and Queen, they love a walkabout. They love to go and shake as many hands as possible. But yeah, the fact that people can be so close to members of the royal family is a real treat and a real joy.
From a horse person's perspective, I have to say, the Cleveland Bays look stunning. Their coats are dappled. They look so healthy as they walk into the paddock here. It's a delight to see how beautifully turned out they are. 3 cheers.
And I think it's worth reflecting on the fact that people did wonder whether or not King Charles would embrace Ascot in the same way that his mother did. And I'm told that in a way he's been a bit taken aback about how much he's actually enjoyed it,
really?
which is why he wants to be here every day this week. I think he realises it's a wonderful opportunity to get together with family and friends who wouldn't want to be out in this spectacular weather. But also there is no doubt the fact that he had that winner in 2023, his first as monarch. It really kind of vindicated to him just why his mother cared so much and how much time that she'd invested. And it was John Warren who described being in the box when Desert Hero won that day, and talking about how the King, he welled up, the Queen was in floods of tears. They had the most amazing moment coming down here, collecting the winner's trophy. And yes, he may be king, he may be monarch, he may be very privileged, but that's a very special occasion.
And do you know, one thing I always marvel at here, because as a lady who dresses in clothes for Royal Ascot, elegantly getting out of one of those carriages without some mishap would be one of the most, I suppose, treacherous things you might do that day.
Really tripping over earlier, you have to kind of lift your skirt up a bit.
Yeah.
None of that from the Queen. She is very experienced at making sure that she looks immaculately turned out, and used to stepping in and out of those carriages, probably in a way that we aren't, I suppose.
I definitely couldn't do it in as beautiful a way. Rhiannon, thank you very much for talking us through that. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Well, and you enjoy this amazing weather. Hopefully it stays. So.
Yeah, I think it's staying, which in some ways is good, and in some ways maybe not quite so good.